All right. Well, hello, and welcome everyone to our BG5 Live. Great to have each and every one of you here with us today. Today is February 8th, 2022. This is episode 142. And today we're going to take a look at trait 49 in quality number 2. So we are going to be taking a look at revolution as a last resort. So that's what we're going to be exploring today. So before we jump in and get started, let's say hello to our panel. Let's start with Linda. Hello, Linda, welcome.
Yes, well, happy to be here and happy to see everyone. And I'm ready to stand up for my principles today. So,
Right on. Thanks, Linda. Welcome. And let's go to Anna. Hello, Anna. Welcome.
Hi, glad to be here as always. Welcome, everybody.
Great to have you here, Anna and Shelley.
Hello. Great to see everyone today. That was my doorbell ringing in the background. We've been waiting for new phones to be delivered for about 2 weeks now.
Nice. Well,
and
welcome.
It kind of ties in with this, yes.
Yes, great to have you here. Welcome. Beautiful. Well, again, welcome everyone. And one of the things that I recognize, I don't think any of us on the panel have the 49. So if you are live in our Zoom room or if you are live via Facebook, we would love to hear your experience if you have trait 49 in your career design. So let's dive in. Let's take a look at trait 49, revolution as the last resort. So if we take a look at where we are, again, in February, this is the emotional awareness to listen to what is needed socially, right? And to surrender to the fates while standing by our principles, being true to our spirit, and connecting with those that we love. Right? We have Valentine's Day coming up next week. So we took a look at social needs, and we also took a look at the listener last week. Again, the social needs is actually on the other side of trait 49 that we're going to be taking a look at today, which is principles. The 49, it's revolution, it's transformation based on highest principles. Next week, we're going to take a look at the fates. So it's about surrendering to the fates. We're going to be taking a look at spirit, and we're also going to be taking a look at friendship and family. Now, one of the things that's interesting about the 49, this is something that we'll also want to pay attention to throughout this year as well. I brought this slide in. This was a part of one of our mini courses taking a look at what's happening over the course of this year. And one of the things that you'll notice with the 49, so one of the things that you may want to pay close attention to today is that it is going to be one of the themes that we're going to be experiencing this year. You can see March 2nd, we'll take a look at judge and discipline moves into the 49 in March. Currently, we're in the listener, which we took a look at last week. In the 13, we will be in that until the 2nd of March. But you can see the remainder of 2022, you can see that we'll be experiencing this 49 quite a bit. So the listener, the principles in revolution, and the fates are all going to be a part of the theme that we're going to be experiencing this year. So one of the things in taking a look at the themes throughout the year is also this ability and this opportunity to also learn and recognize these traits as they show up in our environment. I don't know, Shelley or Linda or Anna, if there's anything that you would like to add here. I just think it's fascinating to notice as we talk about the 49 today and pay attention to how that's going to show up this year.
Well, you shared at the previous slide, it's about transformation. And I feel like as humanity, we are going through a transformation. And one of the key parts of a transformation is that you have to know your principles and to get in alignment with who you are and what your needs are in life and also what your principles are, that you also share as a community as a whole. So I feel like that it's not it has a meaning, that it will come back throughout the year, and also that it will be in judge and discipline, because if we are not true to ourselves and true to the people and our loved ones, we pay the bill from that. We are going to face the discipline from that. So yeah, fascinating to see how it shows up this year.
Yeah, exactly. Right. If we're not standing by our values, if we're not standing by our principles, if we're not following our personal law, that's where judge and discipline can, quote unquote, discipline us or punish us for not following our own values, our own principles, and our own personal laws. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you for that, Linda. Yes, Anna.
One of the first things that comes to mind is the truckers in Canada for me, because that's a social expression of a whole lot of personal principles. You know, this whole realm is, or the transformation that we're in is this sort of tribal mine and yours and good and evil. You're the bad one, you're the good one, whatever. This whole range of our connections based in our principles, based in the way we bond with each other with our principles. And so a social movement, whatever it is sort of, you're bonded by these principles and you stand up for them because they're about not only your basic security, but about your ability to evolve, the elevation that needs to happen when something's been stagnant, when somebody's, if we go back to the 19 and the 13, the resources, basic resources, and then listening, the ability of people, whatever, whether you're a politician or a parent or whatever you are, this whole element of relating to people, bonding together, and then when something's not right, starting to make a move. And sometimes it gets desperate, it's like, okay, we gotta show some sense of our principles here. And it's interesting because right now, at least in the States, and I think pretty much worldwide, people are pressed to take a side about the economy or our health or something like that. And it's not really, the transformation is not really gonna totally happen if we're taking one side or another. The movement has to be, what are we after? What is gonna raise us all up?
Yeah, beautifully said, Anna. Beautifully said. So let's dive in and take a little bit of a deeper look of what the 49 is all about, and then we can continue to discuss it further. And again, we would love to hear from any of you who are here live in our Zoom room, or if there's any comments in Facebook as well. So today's theme, as we've begun to speak about, are all about principles. And along with principles comes revolution. It's potentially aware and ritualistically spiritual as well. So it is, in a sense, this sort of transformational awakening emotionally, right? It's connected to emotional intelligence. So it's knowing what and who is needed or not for the community, right? As both Linda and Anna were talking about, this is very tribal. So it really is taking a look at who belongs and who doesn't belong. That kind of plays into what Anna was talking about, of why there's sort of a picking of sides, if you will, because it's taking a look at who belongs and who doesn't belong. Again, it's very tribal. It's who belongs and who doesn't belong in the tribe. It's also who receives the resources or not as well. And it can be literally rejecting or accepting someone or something based on their alignment or not with your own, with the principles, right? Whether it be the principles of the tribe, or it could be an individual's principles as well. This is also the fear. Whenever we're talking about emotional intelligence, right? Whenever we're talking about an awareness function, the awareness function comes with fears. And the fear here in emotional intelligence is the fear of rejection. You don't want to be left out of the tribe, right? You don't want to be the one who is not getting the resources. So there's a fear of rejection and also a fear of the consequences of unpredictability as well. And ideally, it's transformation based on the highest principles, right? This is what Linda and Anna were talking about as well. Transformation based on the highest principles and not simply for power. It's one of the things we have to be aware of with the tribal circuitry is that if it is for the individual, if it is for power over versus what's good for the whole, what's good for the tribe, it doesn't work quite as well. And these are principles that are so strong that you're willing and available for revolution if needed as the last resort. And notice it is as the last resort, but if it's necessary, people are willing to stand up and fight and, create a revolution in order to change what is no longer working, in order to make sure that people are getting the resources that they need. So with that, I'd like to dive in deeper of what you see or what shows up for you in understanding this 49. I'd love to hear from you, Shelley.
Yeah, this is so great because I was just learning about this in the OC16 today as well, which is that larger group and that, accepting or rejecting somebody, whether or not they're in alignment. So interesting. A couple of things come to mind when you're talking about the truckers, and I was watching that more closely, and it's turned out that it started out as truckers, all the demos, but it turns out that the majority of them are vaccinated. It's like a 10% of them that aren't, and also them combined with just regular citizens who are not vaccinated, and all of them just calling for wanting to be listened to. So it was interesting that, that's happened in this past week was, hey, you're not listening. We're going to come and put ourselves right in front of you so you will listen. And they staged them all across the country. And, everyone's just so tired of the restrictions. And because of the way the virus is unfolding, feels like time to, let's run its course. Let's get back to our so-called normal life. What is that going to look like? That is what people are, when you look at the 19 again, people are wanting to go back to living the basics of their life the way they're comfortable with, the way they always have. And the other thing that popped to mind is on the weekend, we watched a really amazing film on Netflix about the Ukraine and what happened for them in, I think it was 2014, 2015, how this trait 49 showed up for them when their then president, I think they're called there, forgive me if I got that wrong, was telling the people that they were going to join the EU, and then at the last minute signed an agreement with Russia instead, with Putin. And everybody took to the streets, and it was far bigger than what we've seen with the truckers, but it was a really beautiful film to watch, to just see how the people on the ground stood up for their principles and demanded their leadership stick to their principles too. They had 15,000 people in a downtown square for 90 days, more than 90 days. It was amazing to watch. And, in other parts of the world, we just see the little snippets and clips of everything that looks violent and scary. But when you see it from the groundswell of where it started and how it evolved and how it grew and what they were standing there for, it's a much more beautiful story to see unfold, and the difference they were able to make as a result. And yeah, it did get messy, and it did get, some people did die, but it was, and they were calling, the people were calling on the government and saying, what, really, this is still how you want to solve things in today's world with violence? We're peacefully demonstrating. Anyways, it was a really beautiful film. It's called The Winter of Fire, or Fire of Winter of the Ukraine, something like that.
Wow.
Really, really powerful film.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Shelley. Yeah, and it's interesting to see, what's happening. And like you said, there's little snippets around the world where we're seeing this need to stand up for principles. And it's interesting, you were talking about the OC16, and the OC16, the 49 is the person that fires people. So again, it's that acceptance or rejection. Interesting to notice. Anything, Anna? Or yes, Anna.
Yeah, with what Shelley was just saying, when it's a social movement, there's numbers. It's really, really hard. This fear of rejection is very personal, and it's yourself, your body, your family's health, and welfare. But as those numbers, your neighbor starts being in line with your principles, and your community, and then your state, and then your country, and this is it grows. One person might be sacrificed, or a few people might be sacrificed, but it's the movement is the principles of a group. The real transformation is the numbers involved. And we've all had this, situation where we've been fired or rejected or told no about something. And, it's a very shaky position if you're not included. But the nature of this energy is that you find your others, because this ritualistically spiritual quality is that it's a shared ritual. It's a higher level ritual, whatever it is, standing at a vigil with candles lit, or a prayer circle, or a demonstration with songs and drums and marching, or whatever's going on. There is a ritual to there's a celebrational aspect, as well as this kind of dire, life-threatening element. So there's both, but it's about numbers, the many.
Yeah, and it's one of the major shifts that we're seeing moving from the era of planning into the era of the individual, is instead of top-down management or top-down control, if we take a look at what we explore in BG5, we take a look at the small group dynamics and the large group dynamics. And when we take a look at those dynamics, both of them are unidirectional, moving from the bottom and ultimately expressing from the top. And so there is this shift of, in a sense, instead of top down, from the bottom up. And so that really speaks to what you were just sharing, Anna, as well. Really beautiful. Anything, Linda, that you would also like to add? Or anyone who is here live in our Zoom room, or I don't know if anyone has posted anything in Facebook. If there's anyone here in our Zoom room that has the 49 of principles in your design, we would love to hear from you as well.
Well, before other people are stepping up, I got inspired by what Shelley and Anna shared, because I had a reminiscence of that in times of oppression, it's kind of that people are seeking for like-minded people. And for example, in World War II, I went to a museum. I have a lot of interest in that time zone or that period of time, and I want to visit museums, etc. And it's amazing to see that even in times of oppression, people are gathering, a tribal, a community, and they were able to still celebrate birthdays and to still have their wedding ceremonies. And it's like there is a shared principle but there are limitations in the environment, and there's a lack of basic needs, but the basic needs you can fulfill through bonding with each other. That was there. And also with the resistance in World War II, there were people that, okay, well, my last resort is to rebel and to risk my life for the bigger whole of the community, yeah, for other people. That for me also represents principles and revolution. It's to step up for others, because that's what it's all about. And also stepping up for things that you share with others, that you have in common. And that's why I feel like it's really spiritual, because we share one thing always. And even if you don't agree, we are human beings, and we are here on this planet doing our things, not knowing what we are doing, but all loving freedom and all sharing the same values, because we all want peace, we all want love. Even people that are really rough on the outside and are really angry or whatever, also they have families and people they love. So this is what I also see happening right now, is that I also feel like it's a time of oppression, kind of. We need to choose a side. We are getting kind of divided in a way. And there is, just like in the camps in World War II, there is kind of a side society occurring. Like, okay, we are not going to listen to you. We are just doing our own things in our own way. And although we don't have the freedom right now, we are creating a new movement. And that's what you see happening. You see that people are reaching out to like-minded other people that say, okay, well, I will do this for you if you do this for me, because we share the same principles. So this is a time also to take a look around, and to see who shares your principles and who is in your environment. And also loving those people. So, but I can go on and on and on, but this is so much who we are as human beings.
Beautifully said, Linda.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, very beautifully said. And let's take a look at the other side. It's interesting, since the 19 and the 49 are so close, we took a look at the 19 last week, and taking a look at how you're affected when you're connected. Again, the shadow of the 49, or when you don't have trait 49. So this is the lack of ability to fulfill on what is needed, right? The 19 is the needs and the wants. If you don't have the 49, there is this lack of ability to fulfill on what is actually needed. So the questions are, do you feel needy? Do you feel like your wants are not being fulfilled? Do you know what is needed, but you can't fulfill on those needs, right? Those are things to kind of ponder and look at if you have trait 19, but not 49. The problem is that you may have a tendency to become needy. You know what is needed, but you can't fulfill on those needs all by yourself, alone. So the solution is you're really designed to work with others who can fulfill those needs. And Anna, I believe you have the 19, but you don't have the 49. So I would love to hear how you experience the shadow of the 49?
Well, pretty much all of what was said there. Let's see, a couple of responses all at once here. Yeah, I often know exactly what needs to happen. And in my earlier life, it's very self-sufficient. Thought I needed to be, lots of conditioning about that, and also just developing individuality, whole combination of things there. But trying to meet needs all by myself for others without much resource, without much help. For instance, an example once was when my kids were little and in school, early grade school, they wanted to do a community garden, a school garden for the kids. So I did a little tiny grant and got the grant for supplies and seeds and this and that. But I didn't realize that I thought I had to do all the prep, make all the garden beds, and then let the kids do the planting. And it wasn't until several months went by and one of the parents said, we're waiting to help you. And it was like, oh my goodness. I didn't snap to all that I thought I had to initiate and do all these parts. And of course, that's the shadow. We finally got it together and it was like, oh, well, heck, that would be a lot easier than what I'm doing. So I understand this whole thing about, and I wanted to speak, I think it was you, Karen, that was talking about the transition to the individual. And I know when I first started in human design and BG5, that was a little bit confusing, but it's not. In classic US terms, we associate being an individual with being sort of this reckless, restless, pioneer person, not necessarily grounded in your uniqueness. So I just want to address that in this shadow zone. Your individuality is needed in order to fulfill the needs of others. And that's a really subtle place for, that's what I've been learning and discovering. But I think that's also something that's the tribe is starting to understand, all these people that are willing to help. And sometimes they just throw money at something, or they make a great, logical plan, but it doesn't serve the need because there has to be this relationship with the others that you're trying to serve and fulfill their needs.
Yeah. Beautifully said, Anna. Great example. I don't know, Shelley or Linda, if there's anything that you would notice or that you would like to add.
Well, just to add on to what Anna was saying in the OC16 today, just learning about this strength and particularly this trait, being about what you mentioned, Karen, the one who has to fire people or that's whose job it is. The thing I learned that was so freeing was to add to what Anna was saying, is that it's the purpose of the OC16 is to continually regenerate itself. And so it has to constantly have new lifeblood coming into it, which means that people are coming and going throughout an organization. And if you look broader in life, people are coming and going and moving through these stages. But we've been trained to think that we need to join an organization and stay there for life and then retire and do something else. What we're learning, like what Anna was pointing out, is the only real job security for us is knowing who we are as individuals and how we fit, where we connect, what gets drawn out of us in the large organization. And that if it's time for us to move on, it's time for us to move on. That's not, we see it as rejection, yet it's what allows the whole system to regenerate itself. And so just understanding the part we all play in this larger dynamic of the flow that's going on around us all the time, that in my mind, working in a large organization, I was always trying to make things sit still for a while and stay the same so that we could manage. But I recognize and learned today that no, and I've experienced it, nothing ever stays the same. It's constantly changing and flowing and growing and regenerating itself. And this is just one piece of that. And when we get to the place where something isn't working and our basic needs aren't being met, we stand up and say, hey, something has to change. We're going to have to burn this down and regenerate. We need to take a stand here for our principles to say that this is, we're not living up to who we are as a society or group or a whole. And how do we, this seems to be like the first step in the change process of burning down whatever's going wrong and regenerating. Sort of the sense I'm getting from this.
Yeah, exactly. And if we take a look at the unidirectional flow, right, in a large organization, it really starts, the unidirectional flow starts from the bottom to the top, right? And so when we're taking a look at the bottom, we have this pressure function of drive and stamina, right, that is there at the bottom. And again, just like Shelley said, if needs aren't being met, we need to address that, right? And it, in a sense, forces the issue to be able to address those problems, those issues, so it can continue to morph and change in a way that's very healthy. Yeah, beautifully shared, Shelley.
And I see Yvonne is on Facebook and she says, I have the 49.2 defined in an open function. I don't know if I always see or want to see what someone else needs. At the moment, I'm mainly busy with myself, and whoever is happy with this, I share something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Well, let's take a look at the quality for today as well. So today's quality, when we take a look at the 49 of principles, and quality 2 is the last resort. This is the natural, and the elevation is about the potential to explore every possibility before rejecting it. So it's the determination to exhaust every possible peaceful avenue for change. And then when satisfied that no other course is possible, to plan in detail before revolution is attempted. If we take a look at the grounding of the 49, we can see it's the 4, right? So that's about formalization. That's logically being able to prepare and take a look at the details before moving forward. So know that the principles, this is really, the revolution is really only there if it is the last resort. Now, the challenge is the tendency here for a coup d'etat that has little general support. It's the impatience with accommodations, and it's the overwhelming revolutionary urge that is impatient with accommodation and negotiation. It's like, I don't care. We just need to do something, right? And oftentimes it has little or no support for that, which is the challenge. So I would love to hear Anna or Shelley or Linda, anything that you also see with this quality 2 of the last resort. So notice that it doesn't directly go into revolution. It's not, the 49 is trying to work out a way that we can make sure that everyone's needs are fulfilled without having to go to revolution. But we're there to move into revolution if everything else is exhausted, right? As the last resort. Yes, Anna.
Since 49 is connected to emotional intelligence, and in emotional intelligence, there's awareness. That's the whole thing, is trying to become aware, and it's my decision-making strategy. And whether it's your decision-making strategy or not, there's this whole process that develops as you're becoming aware of things that takes time and steps. And so in this elevate, actually the challenge, people don't want to take the time. It's like, I don't want to do all this emotional, whatever is involved, having to deal with, people's feelings, or, because it takes a while, it takes a long time. Some people don't want to deal with relationships and all the sticky stuff. They just want to chop, chop, chop and do something, like you said. But in the elevation, it takes time. And there's been 3 times in my life where I had a very big decision to make. And it took several years to evolve to the point of, even when I knew the direction that the decision was going to take, I still had to go through the emotional waves, the timing, the connecting with people, the researching bits and pieces of it. And then by the time all of that was done, and it involved my internal relationship and relationships with others, I was complete. I was done. I could live with myself. I don't care what the criticism or the praise or any of it is. I'm done. It was fine. It was complete. And I think when you get to this sense of principles, the 49, we get into a lot of messy areas, and it's not all nice and tidy, like Shelley was saying. It's kind of this, ongoing messy, and then it solves, and then it's messy. But if you allow this quality, you go through the parts, the pieces, the waves of something, it ends up, a lot of times you don't have to have a last resort.
Yeah.
There's solutions.
Exactly. And I think that's a really good point, what Anna just pointed out. Because it's connected to emotional intelligence, it is taking time. One of the things we talk about with that decision-making strategy and trusting the emotional wave is never make decisions on emotional highs or emotional lows. And in a sense, that's what the challenge is that if we make decisions to move forward with revolution on emotional highs or emotional lows, it can lead to bloodshed, unfortunately, as well. Yeah, I don't know, Linda or Shelley, if there's anything you would like to add.
Another thing that comes up for me around this is the that and this is probably more the shadow side. When someone's got the 19 of a client I'm working with now, that this is coming up for, and it's more the pressure to almost impose their principles on others. And so that can be the way that this shows up as well, that if people aren't paying attention to the emotional wave and aren't really balanced or aren't clear in living who they are and are living from not self, it can show up as the shadow side of wanting to try to force principles on people. And I could see how that may put them in the position of making decisions at the wrong time on the wave and it not going well. So just another place to be aware of it.
Yeah. Thank you, Shelley. Anything for you, Linda?
Yeah, as you were talking, something popped up for me is that a community wants to continue. It wants to live forever. It wants to produce more community and etc. and more followers and more participants, etc. So I feel like for this one, because it's attached to the emotional intelligence, I feel like the things are balancing out through the waves, through the community as a natural process. And I feel like everyone in a community knows that fighting right away is not always the right thing to do. But I feel like also now in our society, with as a society, in that we are feeling divided, I have a feeling, and also with the example of the truck drivers in Canada, there is a balancing going on, because where we have seen first extremes within society, there at the end there will be a balance, because as a society we come together on because of our principles, and sometimes there are layers to our principle, or layers before we can feel our principles, because that's what I feel what's happening. There is something going on this level, on this level, on this level, and it takes time for people to really feel, okay, well, when they reach this level, wait a minute, that's one step too far. That's how I feel. And that's also what I've seen in the past, or also with the French Revolution, for example, or people that are gaining too much power. Then in a society, there's no balance anymore. So you are, as population, as a society, okay, you keep up with it, you keep up with it, you keep up with it, until there is a last resort. And that's not something you do really like right away, but there is something in us as human beings that, okay, now it's enough. And that's a natural process.
Yeah.
And that's how I really feel this playing out also now in our current society. There is so much pushing, but then also other things are arising. It has to be balanced out, and maybe it will be wobbly because it has to find balance. So maybe things are really getting out of hand, but there's always a counter direction, or a movement, because as a society, we want to live. We want to thrive.
Yeah.
This is a natural process. So that this is in quality too. Yeah, is really natural for me. It really feels natural.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful example, Linda. And one of the things that you were talking about too, which is the nature of this particular tribal wave, is the ratchet up, ratchet up, ratchet up, ratchet up, ratchet up, explode. So it's kind of like the last resort, is, we've tolerated it, we've tolerated it, we've tolerated it, we've tolerated it, we tolerated it, we can't tolerate it anymore. And that's the nature of this very wave. So this is something that we all need to be aware of, especially this year, because again, it comes in with our judge and discipline this year, and is part of what all of us will be experiencing this year as well. And Annie was saying, I'm realizing something about my 49 in this conversation. If it felt correct to invite me to speak, yes, would love to hear from you, Nanny. Make sure. Yes, please.
Hi, thank you. Always get something so meaningful and good from these weekly meetings. I have the personality in the personality Earth in the 49th gate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in an undefined center, so it's not always consistent within me, but there are these noticings that, as in this conversation, that I'll hold on to sort of a principle. And there was an example that recently I was in kind of a chat group with a handful of other people, and they might bring up something, and there was sort of some inaccuracies, and there was something within me. It was like, well, that's, but this is how it really works, but I can appreciate where you're coming from. And they really just didn't want to kind of keep to the mechanics. They kind of just wanted to be in sharing mode. And it was sort of, I think I could feel the rejection from them because I was trying to adhere to certain principles that I felt that this tribe or this group needed. And just hearing this conversation, it was like, oh, okay, I think this is how my 49 comes out from time to time. And it was, and I also, through the awareness and noticing that it wasn't the right environment for me anymore either, but because of, I guess, my principles and me rejecting them and me sort of being rejected by them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Letting me share.
Yeah, and that's a really beautiful example. And one of the things with all of the fears, right? Oftentimes we're afraid of our fears or we try to avoid our fears, but the fears can often be information, right? This is the awareness functions are the ones that carry the fear. So it's an awareness of that fear of rejection or being rejected, but you also then, in a sense, rejected them as well, since it really wasn't aligned with your principles. So it brings forth an awareness of what is correct for you or not correct for you. If you're feeling that rejection, maybe that rejection, just like what Shelley was talking about earlier, is actually a blessing in disguise, because it's time for you to move on to something different, to move on to something that is more aligned with your principles. So I love that you share that, Nanny. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, beautiful. All right. So let's wrap up. Where the last piece here, the celebrity is Joe Pesci. And this is the life work theme. So the life work theme is explanation. One of my favorite movies that he was in was My Cousin Vinny. And for me, it represents this life work theme of explanation. In the movie, he was a new attorney, an aspiring attorney, and he was defending his cousins who had, been wrongly accused. And so it was all about this explanation. And the life work theme is explanation. You are a prophet traveling from place to place, addressing principles behind necessity by pointing out what basic needs must be satisfied for all to survive. It's sensitivity to those in need. And I thought My Cousin Vinny really represented that. So I love that movie. So I don't know if Linda or Anna or Shelley, anything you want to add, and then we'll wrap everything up. And his, he's known for portraying tougher, volatile characters in a variety of genres, right? And he has a collaboration with Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese. So again, that kind of sort of a rough guy kind of portrait as well.
Guy. And he basically goes to war with a 10-year-old kid in the Home Alone franchise.
Right, there you go.
Just challenging each other. Yeah, it's pretty, he's an interesting character for sure. And he plays similar characters all the time.
Yep, exactly. All right. Well, let's wrap up for today. And again, if you are new to BG5 or you want to find out, do I have trait 49 in my design or not? You can go to the BG5businessinstitute.com. You can go to our website. You can download your own personalized chart. Again, you can follow along with the trait of the day. You can also watch past episodes on YouTube or in our free resource library. And also would love to have you join our classes. We have new classes that are starting in May. And especially if you are new to BG5, the place to start is the BG5 Foundation course. So I'd love to have you join us. I'll be actually teaching the BG5 Foundation course. I don't often teach the Foundation course. I usually teach more of the advanced courses. So it's a huge opportunity for me to start at the very beginning once again and teaching the Foundation course. So would love to have you join us. All right. So let's wrap everything up. And what I'd love to hear from our panel, and Nanny, if you want to join us as well, we would love to hear from you also. What are some things to pay attention to or be aware of this week as we're in the 49, and also throughout this entire year, since 49 is going to be in our judge and discipline as well?
I'll jump in. Or you go ahead, Anna. It's always best if you start, actually.
Okay. I would probably wrap up by just be aware of this dynamic of having to take sides and doing the last resort first. It's not necessarily fruitful, because what the 49 in its healthy state is about is joining together and elevating us as humanity. And I would just kind of be aware of how the shadow elements in your personal life or social life or any of that can make you insecure and make you want to sort of divide rather than come together.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Anna. Nanny, I don't know if there's anything that you would like to share or add, having the
thank you.
49.
Thank you. What Anna just said was really impactful for me, because I think that that's a really great thing to contemplate, sort of going beyond of taking sides. Who do I reject? Who do I not? Who do I obey? Who do I not obey? Who obeys me? Those sorts of aspects is sort of, for lack of better words, that not self lower frequency of this, and in the awareness of it. Do we even have to? Have I even been, am I using my strategy and authority to be invited, or whatever? Is it, do I need to do this? Do I need to take a side? Do I need to have this person obey my principles? Am I just noticing and watching, or is my not self, pushing towards this, you must obey me, or you must follow my principles, or I reject you? So Anna, thank you for sharing that, because that made me think. And if that's going to be in our discipline and the judgment throughout this year, I would, it's going to be interesting for all of us. So thank you for letting me speak.
Yes, thank you so much, Nanny. Really, really rich. Thank you so much. Beautiful. And Linda.
Yeah, that's beautifully shared by both of you. So thank you so much. And yeah, be aware of the emotional influence. There you can feel more emotional than normal. What I really want to say, in addition to what Anna and Nani shared, is that what may help in these challenging times of that you have to choose sides, kind of, because there is polarity, and that's because we are moving towards the new era. But to come in contact with your principles, and also to look around, okay, but we are all human beings, and what kind of emotions come at play with other human beings? Because what I experience, and that's also why I am able to experience it maybe so clearly, is because my emotional intelligence is open. So I can literally feel the emotions of other persons, and I sense a lot of fear. And what I really want to, and maybe that is something why the example from World War II was so profound for me, is that even in the most challenging times, there was a connection possible based on being human. And I feel that we all are longing for the same thing. And it also starts with an awareness about, okay, who am I? What is my place in the bigger whole? Because I am nothing without you, and you are me. And like Ubuntu, it's so beautiful. I am because we are. And I feel like that is the lesson we have to learn as a society, is that I am because we are. Only we have to learn to live from the inside out instead of the outside in, and that shift that's going on. So be careful of judgment, be careful of being the kamikaze pilot that is too revolutionary, but also, yeah, see and feel and connect with those around you, and be grateful for that. So.
Yeah, beautifully said, Linda. Thank you so much. And Shelley.
Wow. Everything you've all said is just really nailed it. Linda, I love the, I am because we are. That's a beautiful way to look at it. Because I have this full strength, wide open, I am emotionally defined though. I feel like I'm being neutral, and I want to understand all sides. I want to listen to what everyone's principles are and what everyone believes in, because I feel like every individual has something important to add to the whole. And in listening to all of it, and I don't feel a need to take sides. Actually, I feel the opposite. I feel that I want to make room for all of the principles that exist and see how we can live in harmony with each of them. And I do also recognize, I was kind of struggling with this a little bit myself after watching that movie on Ukraine, that I thought, no, you know what, there are deep-rooted principles for survival and freedom, and our basic right to live as who we are, that I think we all share. And if those were ever challenged, I would take a side. But it's the side of humanity, of allowing humanity to continue to exist by being sensitive to everyone's needs and making sure that everyone is heard.
Wow. Really beautifully shared, Shelley. Yeah. And a great perspective as well. If you have that as a strength that's completely undefined, right? Being able to see the different sides, to be able to, and I love what you said, Shelley, and also Nanny and Linda and Anna, about, really taking a look at what your own principles are and really connecting to who we are as humanity as well. Yeah, beautifully shared. Well, thank you, everyone. It has been an incredible discussion. Thank you, Nanny, for stepping up and sharing. It's always great to hear from you. So if you do have any of these traits as we go through BG5 Live and are here live in our Zoom room, we always love to hear from you and to hear your perspective as well. So thank you so very much. It's been our absolute pleasure. And again, don't act on emotional highs and emotional lows. Really allow things to unfold over time. I like what you said, Linda, in really being aware of it may be more emotional this week. So just paying attention to that. All right, everyone, have a fabulous week, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.